Part 8. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 71. Zuyun has always been defensive. He has too many secrets. But for a person who wanted to protect him even if he died, how could Zuyun let him die like this? Sun Tzu said that the world of immortality is a place where people eat people, and Thuxin believed it. But not everyone does. It is true that I have met many people who want to kill me or take advantage of me when they meet. But look at Zhang Tianyuan, look at Ergu, look at Chen Hua. Only one person is enough to die because of me. Zuyun shouted silently in his heart, clenching his fists and digging his nails deeply into his palms. Suddenly, Chen Hua interrupted Zuyun's thoughts. Zuyun, I listen to you. Because listening to you is always right. Zuyun suddenly felt relieved. He looked into Chen Hua's eyes, full of confidence. Not only do I want to practice well and let the people of Wanjian Mountain take a fancy to me, but I also want to give old man Mu a hard slap in the face and let him know that giving up on me is his loss. Doesn't he think that I can't exchange for resources? It's about losing money. Damn it! I want him to regret it. Chen Hua took a breath in his heart, and if he supplemented it with pills, not to mention returning to the original 5th level of qi refining, at least his life would be safe. Okay, that's it, Zuyun waved his fist and said, take these things and practice well here. Nothing will happen in the valley. Well, Chen Hua nodded heavily, then suddenly remembered something, and said, by the way, Zuyun, I'm staying in the valley, your master won't kick me out, right? And junior brother Joe, he's here too so. Zuyun knew that although he trusted Chen Hua, it was not safe to tell him some things. Whether he said the wrong thing outside, or did it against his will, or was drunk and told a trick, etc., Zuyun's secret might be leaked. So he said, Ergo, my master has something to do in the sect and will not be back for a while. In addition, Ergo has left after recovering from his injuries. Chen Hua breathed a sigh of relief and said, don't worry, I'm the same as junior brother Joe. I won't stay here for too long to embarrass you. However, I want to go to Wanjian Mountain. When I succeed in my cultivation, I will come back to see you. Everyone knows that anyone who can cultivate to the 6th level of qi refining before the age of 20 can be taken away by Wanjian Mountain. Chen Hua is confident in this. Okay, you just woke up, take this nourishing pill first, I have to go out to do some errands. Anyway, it would be inconvenient to stay in Zhongli and enter the Daoglazed Mirror, so Zuyun decided to take the risk and go to Fangxi. There are also a few Firebird talisman on his body, which is his current confidence. At least one of them scares Mu Huhui away, indicating that he has no problem protecting himself. Of course, this is the worst plan, if Fu Taran is hostile to him. After leaving the valley, Zuyun walked all the way towards the mountain gate. Brother Zhu, do you want to leave the clan? Mo Xinpeng hurriedly came over to greet him with a flattering look on his face. Well, register it for me. Zuyun did not stop and walked straight down the mountain. Mo Xinpeng nodded in agreement, but followed Zuyun as if he wanted to personally send him down the mountain. Zuyun frowned and said nothing. As long as he doesn't stop him, he doesn't care. By the way, senior brother Zhu, did you know that there was a traitor in the sect yesterday? Mo Xinpeng said with a mysterious look. Zuyun exclaimed, knowing that Mo Xinpeng was taking the initiative to please him and wanted to get closer to him. If you let his hot face touch your cold butt, it will inevitably make him feel resentful. If you ask him about something in the future and don't try your best, you will be the one who suffers. So he pretended to be interested. I heard that yesterday, senior brother Qin Lycan violated the sect rules and stole the sect master's spiritual stone. The sect master found out and killed him with a sword. Hearing this, Zuyun suddenly stiffened, turned around suddenly, and said, Did you hear that? Who did you hear it from? Mo Xingpeng was startled by Zhu Yun's reaction, and then he remembered that his first meeting with Zhu Yun was when Zhu Yun came to the mountain gate to ask Qin Liken for directions. A feeling of regret arose in my heart, but I had already said the words. If I kept it secret, I might not be able to eat any good fruit today. Zhu, senior brother Zhu, I also heard some casual chats from some disciples. I thought that senior brother Zhu and senior brother Qin would know each other, so I wanted to tell you. Mo Xingpeng is also a good person. He dared to promise Zhu Yun that he could inquire about anything, which shows that he is very comfortable in the sect and naturally knows how to speak. I know, Zhu Yun's expression was cold. He took out 2 magic swords from his storage bag and threw them over, saying, "Help me ask more, please excuse me, junior brother Mo." Mo Xingpeng was overjoyed. He wanted to refuse and pretend to be polite, but he thought it was not suitable at this time, so he took it and thanked him profusely. "Senior brother, I wish you to rest assured. I will definitely help you find out more about the matter." Zhu Yun nodded and stopped stopping. Mo Xingpeng didn't follow him anymore, and at the same time he felt relieved. This Zhu Yunming was not at a high level and was only over 10 years old. But I just... Forget it, never mind, he is short-tongued and soft-handed, help him find out. These 2 low-grade magic weapons can be exchanged for some cultivation resources. Mo Xingpeng returned to his seat and began to think about how to help Zhu Yun get things done. And Zhu Yun? Very clear in my heart. He said personally that when he became the female disciples' guide, he even received the resources for cultivation. Otherwise, how could he give up this position and practice with peace of mind? How can one steal things when there is no shortage of resources? Still stealing things from the sect leader Lin Zhenyang. Who doesn't know that Lin Zhenyang is the strongest? Who doesn't know that Lin Zhenyang has just broken through a small realm? Don't practice well, go to die. Zhu Yun will never believe it. At the same time, if Qin Liken was killed by others, who would dare to frame Lin Zhenyang? So, Qin Liken died at the hands of Lin Zhenyang, no doubt. Then the question is, why kill him? Before leaving the town at the foot of the mountain, Zhu Yun had figured out this problem. Anyway, Mo Xingpeng had already asked about it, and Lin Zhenyang would not run away, so Zhu Yun decided to do the current things first. After leaving the town, he specially found a road with few people, found a corner, and entered the day a glass mirror. Draw a talisman. Now, except for drawing talismans, he has no way to quickly earn spirit stones. And this time, he plans to draw Fu Terran's talisman. Fireball talisman, golden light talisman. Zhu Yun lit a stick of incense and concentrated on it. The fireball talisman was the talisman he was best at, and he drew it very quickly. Although the golden light talisman was a little slower, it was not much slower. Soon, he drew 100 of each. Then he began to charge the talismans. With the spiritual power of his Danshan at this time, he could charge 20 at a time. The reason why the fireball talisman could burst out the power of the foundation establishment period was not because he charged a lot of spiritual power, but because he used the single attribute fire spiritual power, so Zhu Yun's consumption could keep up. After charging 10 fireball talismans, he switched to charging 10 golden light talismans. When the spiritual power was exhausted, he took out the inferior chi combining pills left by the robbers and swallowed them. There was no pill on him, so he made do with it. It was obvious that the medicinal power of these pills was much worse, but it was better than nothing. Until 12 hours passed. Zhu Yun's pills were used up, and he drew 200 of each of the 2 talismans. He left the space in the mirror with these talismans and walked towards the market. In the outside world, several hours had passed. Although he was not in time, he had to speed up his journey. Zhu Yun stepped on the body skills, but did not use spiritual power, and soon appeared at the entrance of the market. Compared with the last time, the market was much more lively. Maybe because the two robber leaders Ren Qingtian and Ren Qingdi died, the rest of the robbers became scattered. Naturally, some monks who did not dare to come originally also came to trade. Zuyun listened to the shouting on both sides, and did not stop, and went directly to the Zhaofu pavilion. "Hey, Yun Xiao, you are here again in just a few days." Wang San at the door saw Zuyun and greeted him with a smile. Zuyun put away his thoughts and smiled slightly. "Thank you, Wang Daiyu, for introducing Manager Fu." Wang San laughed. "Yun Xiao is polite. If you want to see Manager Fu, just go directly." As he said that, he turned sideways and stretched out his hand, making a gesture of invitation. Zuyun was not polite and went up to the second floor as soon as he entered. "Friend Yun, are you going to sell talismans this time too?" Fu Taran looked at Zuyun and said with a smile. Zuyun threw the entire storage bag of talismans on the table and said, "Manager Fu, this time I will sell 200 fireball talismans and golden light talismans each. Take a look." After the words fell, a strange color flashed in Fu Taran's eyes. Warm ti. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 72. Last time. In order to dispel Fu Taran's doubts, Zuyun took the initiative to hand over the fireball talisman and the golden light talisman as a thank you gift for their help, and deliberately said that he was a disciple of Wanjian Mountain, so he was able to escape unscathed. Although Fu Taran showed no hostility at that time, he had to be careful when going out. Even the inside of the sect is so dangerous, let alone the outside. This time, Zuyun had a few firebird talismans with him, and he felt somewhat confident. "Little friend Yun, you surprised Fu Mao this time?" Fu Taran said meaningfully. Zuyun was non-committal. If it was not absolutely necessary, he would never come to Fangxi again and have too much contact with Fu Taran. But now that it's here, it's better to be careful. "What did shopkeeper Fu say?" "Last time, thanks to the help of shopkeeper Fu and Daoist Wang, I escaped safely. So I took these fireball talismans and golden light talismans to take care of shopkeeper Fu's business and express my feelings." Hearing this, Fu Taran laughed and said, "To be honest, little friend Yun, Fu made a small profit from those talismans last time. At the moment, the most talked about thing in the market is the extraordinary ones. These talismans were sold out yesterday, and now there are still people coming to the store to inquire." Zuyun believed this. Fu Taran would naturally have publicity means when he opened his business. From the entrance to Fangxi, he also saw different situations. Before, it was empty. It is very popular now. In the lobby of the store, there are many people choosing talismans. "Shopkeeper Fu, the prices for these two kinds of talismans are still the same as before. How about that?" Zuyun just wants to end things here as soon as possible. As long as the things are prepared enough, he probably won't have to come out within a few years. It's easy to say, easy to say. 400 pieces, right? Even if it's 350 spirit stones. This offensive talisman is extremely useful. I can sell it for a higher price than the Firebird talisman, and I can't lose money. Little friend Yun. Fu Taran also waved his hand very proudly, and a bag of spiritual stones appeared on the table. Zuyun did not accept it, but smiled calmly and said, "Shopkeeper Fu, why don't you bother Daoist Wang to go over and buy some elixirs for the boy? This time, I want Hui Ling Cao, Huang Long Root, and Jingyuan Cao." Easy to say, Fu Taran put the spirit stones into his bag with another wave of his hand, threw them into Wang San's hands, and said to Zuyun, "Then, do you still need to practice some more this time? At most, Wang San can do it in half an hour. Get it done." "That's great, but I have to borrow the shopkeeper's room again." Zuyun stood up and said politely. "Haha, it doesn't matter. It's just that Fu has a merciless request this time. Fu Tarren said seriously. Shopkeeper Fu, please speak. Zhu Yun's heart trembled. Something finally happened. Little friend Yun's master is a fellow Taoist from Wanjian Mountain. To be honest with little friend Yun, Fu is actually from Yezhu. Wanji Unshan has heard about it for a long time. If Xiao Yun can bring Fu to see him, Fu Mao will be very grateful to inquire about the current situation in Yezhu. Of course, this matter is for others to decide. When Fu Mao saw Yun Xiao collecting elixirs twice, he was afraid that he liked alchemy, so he specially prepared one this time. Zhang Danfang, thank you. After the words fell, a piece of ancient yellowed paper appeared on the table, which seemed to have been passed down for a long time. Fu Tarren, on the other hand, did not shy away from any taboos and actually directly showed Zhu Yun the contents of the prescription. Body shaping pill. It can be taken by anyone below the nascent soul stage to shape the body. Since this pill acts on the body, the medicine does not need to pass through the danshan. For monks, there are no side effects. As for the physical improvement in the nascent soul stage, it naturally does not need to this pill. The elixir required for this elixir is Degzuyue, Juyang blood, boundless water. Zhu Yun glanced at it and memorized the entire recipe. Judging from the required materials, this is clearly an intermediate elixir. Sun Suanhua, on the other hand, did not teach him how to refine the intermediate elixir at all. For Zhu Yun, some of the contents of the elixir gave him a new understanding of alchemy. Zhu Yun was even simulating how to refine the body-shaping pill in his mind. Just because the body-shaping pill is also useful for him, strengthening his body and making up for the shortcomings of ordinary monks. The reason why sword cultivators focus more on sword cultivators than on spiritual cultivators is that the physiques of monks below the nascent soul stage are almost the same. As long as you have a sword in your hand, you have a chance to defeat the weak with the strong. Before thinking about it, Zhu Yun defeated the strong with the weak, almost relying on the sword. Although he clearly had more methods with the talisman, he never gave up on the first move of the sword control technique, which was to release the sword energy. That's why. Little friend Yun, you are going to agree to pay someone. At this time, Fu Tarren's voice sounded, and he had a scheming smile on his face, and his eyes narrowed into a thin line. Zhu Yun secretly said that it was not good, and he fell into this guy's trap. Fu Tarren deliberately turned the pill side up so that he could remember its contents. In this way, he would not be able to reject it. But how can I be a disciple of Wanjian Mountain? But if you don't agree, I'm afraid a fierce battle will inevitably happen today. Zhu Yun felt that he was in his territory and had no chance of winning. Ha ha ha, definitely, definitely. Last time when I returned to Lingjian sect, Master asked me if I was causing trouble here. I said no. It was a group of unsighted rogue cultivators who wanted to kill people and steal goods. I happened to meet him. Shopkeeper Fu is willing to help. When Master heard this, he said he had the opportunity to meet Shopkeeper Fu, but he was afraid that Shopkeeper Fu wouldn't dare. Zhu Yun smiled and deliberately said he didn't dare. That's very good. Fu Tarren was overjoyed, but he frowned and asked, Little friend Yun, your master said that you dare not. Ah, I understand, he is a senior in the Danja stage. What do you think? Anyway, he decided to fool Fu Tarren first, so Zhu Yun simply boasted a little more. It just so happens that in a few days, Wan Jianshan will really come to the elixir formation stage. Maybe it really scares Fu Tarren away, that would be great. Little friend Yun is serious. Senior is so easy to talk to, so Fu Mao must go and pay a visit. If he can get to know the powerful senior of Wanjian Mountain who is in the pill formation stage, in the future, Wanjian Mountain, Fu Mao will not need to tell me little friend Yun's name. Zhu Yongsu gave in and laughed, then withdrew his expression and said, Shopkeeper Fu, I'm very interested in this recipe. Thank you very much. He was not polite and directly stuffed the pill formula into his arms, cupped his hands and said, "Young man, hurry up and practice for a while. When fellow Taoist Wang has finished his work, I would like to trouble you to inform the shopkeeper." Easy to say, easy to say. When little friend Yun comes to my Zaofa pavilion, everything can be done by himself. Zhu Yun actually didn't want to stay here for a moment. He just wanted to be quiet and think about countermeasures. So far, Fu Taran believed what he said. Or perhaps, they feel that he is in the qi refining stage and his strength is no more than this. No matter how cunning it is, if you agree to let him follow you, you can't escape from his grasp. Zhu Yun sat cross-legged, thinking about a solution. If it can be killed, it will be done once and for all. The fact that he didn't follow him last time meant that he didn't pay much attention to it. But when he suddenly said this time, he obviously took a fancy to the relationship between the 200 fireball talismans and the golden light talisman. Zhu Yun made a close guess. Although Fu Taran opened a Zaofa pavilion here to hide from others. But in fact, he is from Yeazhu Yunfu sect. In the battle between good and evil, Yunfu sect was not much different from Sun Suanhu, a 7-star sect. Now it has declined. If he could accomplish his goal in Yunzhou, then forget it, but Fu Taran had been here for decades and there was no news. Now that I met Zhu Yun, I suddenly took out so many magical talismans. If you learn the method of making this talisman, you can pass it back to Yunfu sect. So if used on an intermediate talisman, can it also increase the power compared to a strike in the pill forming stage? What about using it on high-end talismans? Is it possible to have a fight with the ancestor of nascent soul? Fu Taran thought very clearly that the purpose of his coming here was to make the Yunfu sect stronger again. The new method of making talismans can also make the sect stronger, and even meet their expectations. Yeazhu is the world in the Danja period. If this method of making talismans is used on high-level talismans, what else can they, the Yunfu sect, have to fear? So this time, Fu Taran is bound to win. It didn't matter whether he believed Zhu Yun was from Wanjianshan or not. What's important is how to get the talisman. Even if his master is from Wanjian Mountain, so what? In terms of attainments on talismans, only the 7-star sect can compare with their Yunfu sect. But the 7-star section. Haha, do the remaining disciples have enough power? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 73. Half an hour later, Wang San came back with a storage bag. Inside, all are elixirs. Wang San, is the matter done? Fu Taran asked. Don't worry, shopkeeper, the villain is doing the work, don't worry. Wang San said, patting his chest. Fu Taran nodded, took the storage bag, and said, go back to Yunfu section. Wang San's expression changed. The shopkeeper is going to inform Zhongli. That's right, let's take a closer look at this matter. It affects whether our Yunfu sect can gain a foothold in Yeazhu and even the entire Yao kingdom. You also know that in 10 years. Shopkeeper, I understand now, let's set off now. If everything goes well, we can bring the sect master's instructions within half a year. Wang San looked serious. You don't have to fight so hard, Fu Taran sneered, that boy, I guess most of what he said is a lie. There are people from Wanjian Mountain in Lingjian sect, I know, but after thinking about it, Wanjian Mountain is basically there are no people who can draw talismans. They are just some sword madmen who are so crazy that they use themselves as swords to make talismans. How can these people know how to make talismans? The shopkeeper means. Does this need to be said? The one closest to our city is the Lingjian section. This guy's words are 70% true and 30% false. He probably wants to fool us. But this time I used the pill formula, and he had no choice. According to what I saw is that someone from the Lingjian sect suddenly became enlightened. Fu Terran's face was full of disdain. Although he was only at the 9th level of foundation building, he came from Yeazhu and his cultivation level was naturally higher than that of the local monks in Yunzhou. And, after being here for so many years, how could it be possible if there was no trump card? So Lingjian sect, he didn't take it seriously at all. And those who are stationed here in Wanjian Mountain are only in the foundation building period. In the Baron Yunzhou, at the 9th level or above of the foundation stage, you can basically walk sideways. If you can get the means to strengthen your sect, what's the harm in killing one? Who knew that he secretly killed the elder stationed at Wanjian Mountain? Yes, shopkeeper, it's better to be careful on this journey. Wang San said respectfully. Fu Terran threw out a bag of spiritual stones and said, you can take these and go on the road, there is no need to save. After saying that, Wang San turned around and left Zaofa Pavilion. After leaving Fangxi, he ran all the way north. Fu Terran then walked up the stairs carrying the storage bag and arrived outside Zhu Yun's house. Little friend Yun, little friend Yun? Things are done, can we set off? Inside the room, Zhu Yun was nervous. He was prepared for the worst. As a last resort, I probably have to fight Fu Terran on the way. Not in Fangxi, not even at the foot of Lingjian Sect Mountain. If Lin Zhenyang and Mu Huhui knew about his strength, they might be in the same situation. Zhu Yun was thinking in his heart, but his face didn't show it at all. He firmly remembers the truth that when you go out, you must be on guard against others. Thank you, shopkeeper, for your work. Zhu Yun opened the door from the house. Fu Terran patted the storage bag on Zhu Yun's hand, and said with a smile, young friend Yun is so polite. Fu has just explained everything, let's set off now. God. You must be able to go to Lingjian sect before you are black, right? Of course, it's not far away. Zhu Yun smiled and said it was natural. But at this moment, we can only try our best to numb Fu Terran. By the way, little friend Yun, do you want me to have a royal weapon to fly you all the way there? Zhu Yun's thoughts raced in his heart, and he immediately found a suitable reason, and said, no, Mr. Fu, I'm only at the 4th level of qi refining. I'm afraid I won't be able to withstand this half airflow. We're not in a hurry, so let's walk. Listen to little friend Yun. Fu Terran didn't care either. He only knew the approximate location of Lingjian sect, estimated the distance, and it was almost dark when he walked there. If you really need to take action, it would be better to do it after dark. The two walked side by side and left Fangxi. A group of casual cultivators couldn't help but be surprised when they saw Fu Terran accompanying a little kid who was practicing qi. This is the shopkeeper of Zaofa Pavilion. He has been doing business here for decades. Who doesn't know him? All the way out of Fangxi, not far away, two monks wearing bamboo hats looked at each other. Fu Terran is so cunning, how can he talk and laugh with a little kid? One person asked softly to his companion. I can't afford it early without any benefit. I guess that little kid must be ignorant of the world and was deceived. A voice as crisp as an oriole sounded, and the translucent yellow veil under the bamboo hat turned out to be a young female nun. Junior sister, why don't we follow up and take a look? Fu Terran has left Zaofa Pavilion, and there is hope for revenge. Senior brother, Fu Terran has many means. I'm afraid it's inappropriate to follow him like this. Why don't we snatch his talisman pavilion while he's gone? The nun had an idea. The male cultivator pondered for a moment and then said, that's okay. Recently, Zaofa Pavilion has sold many extraordinary primary talismans. If they are robbed, not only will his vitality be severely damaged, but those talismans will also be used by me, which will also increase the section door strength. But what? Look at that little kid with a long sword hanging from his waist. He is heading towards the spirit sword section. He should be a disciple of the spirit sword sect. The female cultivator snorted lightly, her tone full of disdain. It's just a sect that makes a living by selling its disciples. The male cultivator said, let's go, Lingjian sect is none of our business, just guard our Wangxian sect. Senior brother, do we still need to guard Wangxian sect? Wherever we are, the sect will be there, Yunzo. There is not much spiritual energy, there are too many people who want to be swordsmen so that they can take a shortcut. The male cultivator paused for a moment and remained silent. But he quickly walked towards the market. The female cultivator shook her head and followed him, but sighed in her heart. Yunzo was getting worse year by year. The orthodox sects like their Wangxian sect, which mainly practiced magic, were almost gone. Junior sister, don't think too much. When things here are over, you and I will go to Yaezhu together to explore the secret realm. The female cultivator said back, senior brother, it should be you who don't think too much. After going to Yaezhu, you and I will be just like everyone else. Zuyun and Fu Taran did not walk fast. After an hour, they only walked more than 10 miles. Fu Taran looked at the sky and said, friend Yun, how far is it? Almost, almost. Zuyun dealt with it, but he was anxious in his heart. From the foot of the Lingjian sect to the market, it was almost a plain. He had no advantage of time, place, and people, which made Zuyun feel unconfident. He has a killer move, but it is used when killing people. Now there is no chance to kill with one strike, such as the Fireball Talisman and the Golden Light Talisman. Since Fu Taran dared to come out with him, he must have been prepared for it. Even he knows how to guard against people. Even if Fu Taran despises him, he must have taken these situations into account. You said it was fast half an hour ago, and it is still fast now. Otherwise, Fu will take you to fly. At most, fly slower. Fu Taran is testing Zuyun. The more he procrastinates, the more he has something to hide. But now Zuyun has not revealed his feet, so he can still play with him for a while. Of course, the most important thing is that Fu Taran has never had the intention to kill Zuyun. Just because he is so young and knows many of his methods, Fu Taran is really not interested. Killing a little kid in the Qi refining period? How can it be fun to tease him? It's not in Yaezhu, where a child with a background many times bigger than their Yunfu sect will appear at any time. He had no psychological burden at all. Zuyun wanted to refuse. But a flash of lightning flashed in his mind, and he immediately made a plan. The plain is wide, as long as Fu Taran is a little bit prepared, then there is no way for him to attack him. If I can't succeed in one attack, I have no choice but to escape. A head-on battle will surely lead to my own death. But if Fu Taran takes me to fly, his range of activities will only be on the magic weapon. In other words, if I stand on the magic weapon to attack him, unless he jumps to the ground, there is no way to avoid it. And in the foundation building stage, falling from a certain height, he will also be smashed into a meat paste. But even if I kill him in mid-air, the magic weapon will lose control, and I will also be in the sky. Zuyun's mind is like lightning, and he quickly thought of a way to deal with it. At this moment, I can only fight. He turned around and smiled, saying, if it's slower, then it will work. My master has taken me flying many times, and every time he was so angry that he scolded me, saying that I didn't make any progress, which made flying the sword unsatisfactory. Seeing Zuyun agree so easily, Fu Taran was stunned. Could it be that this little brat didn't lie to me? However, he immediately threw this question out of his mind. It doesn't matter whether it's a lie or not. When we get to the Lingjian sect, we will know everything. Haha, that's great. In fact, Fu is tired of walking. After that, Fu Taran patted his storage bag, and the huge talisman appeared in front of him like a flying carpet. Little kid, come here. Fu's magic weapon is much wider than your master's flying sword, right? Zuyun pretended to be curious and said, of course it is. I am afraid of falling down with the flying sword. I can't even lie down on this flying carpet. Don't worry, Fu's ability to fly to the sky is not weak. After seeing Zuyun coming up, Fu Terran immediately drove the talisman into the air, but when he was still slowly speeding up, a talisman in the distance behind him turned into a yellow light and flew over. Zuyun was surprised. Isn't this an intermediate talisman, a communication talisman? Fu Terran waved his hand, and the communication talisman immediately fell into his hand, and words appeared. Zuyun didn't know what message came, but he saw Fu Terran's face changed suddenly. Little kid, I'm afraid you can't go to the Lingjian section, come back to the market with Fu first. After that, the talisman magic weapon under his feet suddenly turned in a direction and went quickly in the direction of the way he came. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 74. Senior brother, I didn't expect that they still have a communication talisman. What should I do? The city was in chaos. Zaofa Pavilion, which had been doing business here for decades, was suddenly robbed and then burned down in broad daylight. Junior sister, the Zaofa Pavilion will not sell these talismans, it must not be that simple. At this time, the best strategy is to take action. The male cultivator looked gloomy. At first, when they saw Fu Terran leaving with Zuyun, they deliberately wandered around the city and went to Zaofa Pavilion along the way. The two pretended to buy a large number of talismans, saying they wanted to discuss business with the shopkeeper here, and asked the waiter in the store to invite them. Fu Terran had already gone out, and Wang San also happened to go back to Yazhu, which was not far away. The only person in charge of the store was a monk at the 7th level of Qi refining. This monk was hired by Fu Terran in Yunzhou and was not his confidant. Naturally, the Qi refining cultivator sent the shopkeeper out, and Wang San also left for nearly an hour and spoke his words without reservation. If there is any business, he can decide. Upon hearing this, the two of them were overjoyed. The junior sister directly struck the monk away, and the male cultivator blasted out the rest of the monks and the guests here. Only then did he and his junior sister snatch all the talismans here. The male cultivator also used magic to burn down the Zhaofu Pavilion. However, this male cultivator is quite authentic, and his spells are mysterious enough. It is the Zhaofu Pavilion, and the several houses next to it are not affected at all. Just like this, there were more or less casual cultivators watching the theater around. The two of them walked away with their weapons, but they never thought that the Qi refining monk who was knocked away was only seriously injured, but he actually threw a communication talisman. There is no doubt that this is a tip for Fu Terran. The male cultivator said in a deep voice, we missed something important. No wonder Fu Terran dared to leave. The gatekeeper of the 9th level of Qi refining is not here either. If we escape now, I'm afraid we will attract attention. Why don't we take off the disguise and fish in troubled waters? Senior brother, do you mean someone who pretends to be a spectator? The most dangerous place is the safest place. How do all the Qi refining monks here know our faces? Let's go to the mountainside and change our clothes and come back. The male cultivator made a quick decision and flew away with the female cultivator. Those Qi refining monks only thought that these two people were also casual cultivators who had no business. I just saw that they could fly with weapons and their level was not low, so I didn't dare to chase them for fear of losing my life. During the flight, the female cultivator said urgently, brother, there are no foundation building monks in the crowd, but those houses, such as the Dan Pavilion. The male cultivator was well prepared and said, I just set a fire and specifically controlled the fire to prevent it from burning to their side. Presumably those shopkeepers will not offend the two of us in the foundation building period. The female cultivator thinks this makes sense. In the world of cultivating immortals, it is better to do less than to do more. If you meddle in other people's affairs, you may risk your own life. Their master died like this. It is still unclear in whose hands he died. The two quickly changed their clothes and took off their disguises. Then they turned in another direction and rushed to Xianxia from the other side, squeezing into the middle of the crowd. Pretending to be a new arrival, he followed the people around him to get information. The casual cultivators on the side realized that the strength of the two men was bottomless, and they told the truth wherever they dared to hide anything. The two of them secretly breathed a sigh of relief and agreed casually. Now, they are waiting for Fu Terran to come back. When the time comes, he will definitely become angry and drive these loose cultivators away. At that time, the two of them can leave easily, and it doesn't matter where they go. At this time, on top of the talisman and magic weapon, Fu Terran couldn't care too much anymore. Zuyun couldn't run away anyway, but Zaofa Pavilion was his place to stay here. Who dares to disturb Tai Sui? He just wanted to kill the people who set fire to looting to vent his hatred. Shopkeeper Fu, slow down, slow down. Zuyun only felt the sound of wind in his ears. The last time he went to heaven, Zhang Tianyuan rescued him from the cliff. But at that time, I closed my eyes, the distance was not far away, and it was over before I felt scared. But at this time, a foundation building stager was flying with all his strength. The speed was so fast that he would be blown down by the air current if he was not careful. Why didn't Zuyun panic? Although he thought of a way to survive the fall. But that method should be used after killing Fu Terran. Shut up. Hearing Zuyun talking behind him, how could shopkeeper Fu still be in the mood to pretend to him at this time? He immediately turned around and shouted loudly, his eyes were blood red and full of ferocity. Zuyun felt cold in his heart. It seems that the shopkeeper is in an emergency. He was so anxious that he didn't even want to pretend. So, that means that Fu Terran did have bad intentions when he followed him to Lingjian sect. In this case, what else is there to say? Zuyun carefully took out two firebird talismans. Each hand held a button in the palm of his hand. Fu, shopkeeper Fu, I'm afraid of heights, I'm afraid of falling down and dying. Zuyun knew that his words would annoy him, so he was not polite and squatted down while talking. He was already small in stature, but by squatting down, he completely hid the two talismans, and it also helped him to explode unexpectedly later. If you fall, Fu will certainly go down to catch you. Fu Terran was annoyed and turned back to curse, but he found that Zuyun was indeed frightened, squatting and curling up, and he also retracted his expression and said coldly, "You are good, you know that squatting is easy to fall." After that, he turned his head away. At this moment, Zuyun's eyes flashed, his body suddenly bounced up, and two talismans on the left and right slapped towards Fu Terran's back. At the same time, he frantically circulated the spiritual power in his body to drive the talismans. For this, he has to thank Fu Terran. At first, he didn't know the difference between the primary and intermediate talismans used by cultivators in the Qi refining period. Later, in order to deliberately show off, Fu Terran let Zuyun know that if the level of the talisman is higher than the realm of the talisman user, it requires a lot of spiritual power to drive. Zuyun was not stingy, and he wanted to draw out all the spiritual power in the entire Danshan. The five-color turntable spun rapidly, almost melting into one color. Zuyun was afraid that it would not be enough to use only the fire spiritual power to drive two firebird talismans at the same time. He used all five spiritual powers at the same time this time. In an instant, the spiritual power in his palm surged out, and when the talisman was attached, the spiritual power was enough. The two firebird talismans immediately ignited two fireballs. In the blink of an eye, the fireballs had become much larger, and at the same time, flames continued to bulge out of the fireballs, and quickly grew a sharp beak, head, tail, and wings. "Boy, you dare to trick me." Fu Taran just turned his head, his attention was all in front of him, and even in the distance, he had seen a flash of fire in the direction of the market. He knew very well that it was his Zhaofu pavilion. So he never thought that Zuyun would take action immediately when he just turned his head. When the talisman was attached to his body, he thought it was just Zuyun's fireball talisman, and he was a little less prepared. His face was full of disbelief, and he shouted loudly. Just as he was about to turn around and slap him with a palm, the temperature of the fireball on his back suddenly increased. This is not a fireball talisman. He felt a sharp pain in his body, and the flowing spiritual power could not stop such a burning. At the same time, the sound of phoenixes came from both sides of his ears. This is a high-level talisman, the Fire Phoenix talisman. No, that's not right. He is a chi-refining boy, and his spiritual power is not enough to drive the Fire Phoenix talisman. This is a Firebird talisman. Damn it, I should have learned the method of making this talisman earlier. Fu Tai was full of regrets. The scorching flames had burned his protective clothes and even burned his body. Even the fire power had invaded his body. Because the Fire Phoenix claws, which were mutated from the Firebird, were tightly holding his flesh and blood. He was dead. Boy, you're trying to trick me, don't even think about getting off easy. Suddenly, Fu Taran roared, ignoring the severe pain in his body, and used all his strength to stimulate the spiritual power in his body, rushing towards the talisman magic weapon under his feet. This is his natal magic weapon, and his mind and spirit are connected. If he wants to explode, he can explode by himself. Boy, even if you still have many trump cards, I don't know how you can stop the self-explosion of a natal magic weapon in the foundation building period. As soon as the voice fell, Zuyun suddenly realized that the magic weapon under his feet had a terrifying spiritual power fluctuation. With the power to destroy the world. He was so scared that he couldn't wait to see Fu Taran die with his own eyes. If he watched again, he would be buried with him. He poured all the remaining spiritual power into his feet, and used all his strength to jump in the opposite direction of the talisman's flight. Behind him, Fu Taran's resolute and crazy laughter came. Boy, there will be no grass within 100 steps. Ha ha ha. Before he finished laughing, he suddenly found that Zuyun's figure disappeared out of thin air. The laughter stopped abruptly. Where is he? Just as he was wondering, the talisman under his feet burst into flames. It swallowed up the two fire phoenixes and him instantly. It turned into ashes, and he couldn't figure out where Zuyun's people had gone. At the same time, everyone in the market saw the vibration and the flames more than 10 miles away. The male and female cultivators looked at each other and ran towards that side frantically. Just now, they had seen the two firebirds, but they looked from a distance. It looked like a firebird talisman, and they still didn't understand it in their hearts. But it suddenly exploded at this time. This is a bit too weird. But maybe there is a chance to kill Fu Taran? With this thought in mind, the two of them rushed out of the crowd, threw out their respective flying magic tools and flew towards that direction, suppressing the thoughts of the other chi refining stage practitioners who also wanted to go and take a look. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 75. In the wilderness sky, the sky is not dark yet. When the flying carpet magic weapon exploded, the fragments exploded and fell from the sky with fire, like a shower of meteors and fire. The dots of fire, the trail of smoke as it fell, and the frantic flow of spiritual energy in the air all indicate that a foundation building period with a strong level has passed away here. Ground. 2 monks, 1 male and 1 female. Looking up, the sun has not yet set in the west, but a bright moon has already appeared in the east. It's almost dusk. Senior brother, let's go. I don't know what kind of powerful Senior Fu Taran has encountered, but he actually forced him to self-destruct. The female cultivator spoke with a look of indifference in her eyes. Although Fu Taran did not kill Fu Taran with his own hands for destroying the sect, it is still a good result. There is nothing left to miss in Yunzhou. The male cultivator took a deep breath and then showed determination. There are still 10 years left, which is enough for us to prepare. Junior sister, it's time to go to Yezhu. Yes, the female cultivator nodded and said, by the way, senior brother, those talismans. The intermediate talismans are our trump cards. If you need to use them normally, just use the elementary talismans. Yes, senior brother. Fu Taran brought a total of 400 extremely powerful fireball talismans and golden light talismans from Zuyun, and they were all lying quietly in their storage bags. The two walked side by side, heading north. Thousands of miles away is Yezhu. At this time, the space in the mirror. Zuyun is refining his qi. In addition to using his spiritual power to drive those two firebird talismans, he almost exhausted all his spiritual power in order to control them steadily. At this moment, he realized how difficult it was to make good use of the intermediate talismans that were supposed to be used in the foundation building stage during the qi refining stage. He couldn't help but feel happy in his heart. It's not that he was glad that he killed Fu Taran instead. But in order to chase Chen Hua, who had fallen to the bottom of the Lost Sword Cliff, he actually used the Firebird talisman on Mu Hui like a primary talisman. There was no accident. At that time, he was in a hurry and didn't pay attention to the loss of spiritual power. He even threw the Firebird talisman and ignored it. Presumably, it was also because of the mutation of the Firebird talisman that Mu Hui was afraid. No wonder there are no other traces on the ground except footprints. Careless, still careless. Zuyun murmured to himself and slowly opened his eyes. There was no elixir left in his body, and even the low-quality Iki elixir had been consumed. Now only the various elixirs that Wang San had bought with his help were left. It's unclear what the situation in the outside world is at this time, but Fu Taran is definitely dead. The self-destruction of the foundation building device is extremely powerful. Such movement will definitely attract some strong people, so I'd better stay here for a while. After Zuyun made his decision, he lit an incense candle. Generally speaking, the sect doesn't take too much care when ordinary disciples in the sect go out. Only disciples with outstanding talents will be relatively restricted and need the consent of their master. Although Zuyun is not worried about this, there is still Chen Hua recuperating in the valley. He didn't dare to stay outside for too long. It seems that if you have the chance, you have to find an alchemy furnace, otherwise there will be no way to make alchemy here. There are so many elixirs, but he can't make elixirs. Others are clever and can't make a meal without rice, but he has no pot. Moreover, the alchemy furnace must be smaller, otherwise it will fill the entire cave and it will be inconvenient for him to do other things. Now, Zuyun decided to draw some Firebird talisman. Using two of them at the same time, he killed Fu Taran, who was at the 6th level of foundation establishment. This shows that the Firebird talisman is quite powerful. It's no weaker than the sword energy he uses with a mid-grade magical sword. Just do it. 12 hours passed in the mirror. Zuyun has 3 more Firebird talismans in his hand. Sitting and refining his energy to restore his spiritual power, Zuyun stepped out of the mirror holding a middle-grade magic sword. It's so dark at night that you can't even see your fingers. The dark clouds in the sky cover the moon, and there is a bit of cold air around it. But Zuyun breathed a sigh of relief. Darkness is the best cover for him at this time. After putting the magic sword back into the storage bag and grabbing the Firebird talisman just in case, Zuyun quickly ran towards the Lingjian sect with the steps of the immortality secret. I can't help but think in my mind, if Mengwei is lurking in the darkness and uses that black shadow to deal with me, how should I deal with it? Hundreds of miles away, a carriage was swaying in the distance, and the girl in the carriage was drowsy. Ah, sneeze. Suddenly, Meng Wei's nose itched, he sneezed, and sat up. Girl, be careful of catching a cold. On the shaft outside the carriage, Sun Suanhua shouted to Meng Wei without looking back. Meng Wei rubbed his nose and smiled secretly in his heart. After all, I was once in the realm of alchemy formation. If I could catch a cold, wouldn't I be laughed at? However, this sudden sneeze, could someone be talking about me? Humph, who else is there besides that little brat Zuyun? The corners of Meng Wei's mouth unconsciously formed a beautiful arc. He blinked and said to Sun Suanhua, Grandpa, I'm fine. Girl, you are not young anymore. You know how to be warm and cold. Sun Suanhua said, thinking that if you weren't entrusted to me by that brat Zuyun, how could I still ask you? Grandpa, I'm really not cold, but my nose is itchy. Meng Wei rolled his eyes, knowing that Sun Suanhua had good intentions, but he also knew that it was entirely because of Zuyun and the fact that she had been using the breath condensation technique to hide her spiritual aura. At this time, suddenly there was a sound of horse hooves in the darkness. Traveling in the middle of the night is not uncommon, but the sound of the sound is not fast, which is a bit intriguing. Unless it is, looking for someone? Sun Suanhua's heart tightened, and he said to the carriage, Girl, don't make a sound, someone is coming. Okay, I know. Meng Wei responded softly, holding a fireball talisman in his hand. She didn't have many tricks. In addition to burning her lifespan to temporarily increase her strength to the foundation building stage, she only had the talisman given to her by Zuyun. The horseman seemed to have discovered Sun Suanhua's carriage, slowed down, and kept a certain distance from the carriage. Fellow deist, why are you following my carriage? Seeing this, Sun Suanhua pulled the reins to stop the carriage, holding a sword in one hand and holding a firebird talisman in the other. The sword is his lifelong magic weapon, and the firebird talisman is his best method. Senior, I am Wang San, passing by here, and I dare not disturb you. The person who came was Wang San, who was going to Yazhu. Fu Taran told him not to worry, so Wang San was not in a hurry to get on the road. Flying a sword is not durable enough, but walking is too slow. So he simply bought a horse and headed north, but he didn't expect to run into Sun Suanhua. He was at the 9th level of Qi refining and came from Yazhu, so he could naturally feel that Sun Suanhua was not someone he could mess with. There are so many roads in Yunzhou, why can't you go anywhere? Why do you have to follow me? Sun Suanhua's face sank. He was not afraid of anything else, but he was afraid of people sent by the Spirit Sword sect. Calling him Wang San and Wang Si, who knows if it was just a random name. Senior, you misunderstood, Wang San hurriedly said, sensing the dissatisfaction in Sun Suanhua's tone. Senior, I am going to Yazhu, but there is only this road here. I have no way to go around, please forgive me. He was telling the truth, otherwise, he would really take a detour. If he hadn't felt that Sun Suanhua's aura was not dangerous enough, he might really turn around and leave. You dare to go to Yazhu in the Qi refining stage? You're looking for death, Sun Suanhua said in a low voice, don't get too close to me, or I'll be rude to you. Sun Suanhua wanted to kill, but he was afraid of scaring Meng Wei in the car, so he held back and could only warn Wang San. He then started the carriage again and drove away slowly. When the carriage went far away, Wang San touched his chin and said to himself, he is obviously in the foundation establishment stage, and he is so fierce, why didn't he kill me? Moreover, it seems to be the way to Yazhu, but the speed is so slow, could it be? Wang San can become Fu Taran's confidant in the Qi refining stage, so he must be unique in other aspects. After a thorough analysis, he determined that Sun Suanhua was alone and not strong, and more importantly, his body skills were unique, otherwise, he would not have followed Zuyun all the way and would not have been discovered. Thinking of this, Wang San turned over and got off the horse, turned the horse in a direction, and then pulled out a dagger and stabbed it on the horse's butt. The horse felt pain, neighed, and ran back to the road it came from. Wang San then took advantage of the cover of the night and quietly followed the carriage, not slowing down at all. And he heard Sun Suanhua's voice. "Don't be afraid, girl. He is just a junior in the qi refining stage. Did you hear the voice? I scared him to the point of peeing his pants." In the car, Meng Wei chuckled, knowing that Sun Suanhua was strong on the outside but weak on the inside and wanted to save face. Although he looked like he was in the foundation establishment stage, his actual combat power was just average. "Girl, what are you laughing at? Did your brother say something bad about me?" Sun Suanhua felt something was wrong when he heard Meng Wei's laughter. Meng Wei was not good at talking, he just kept laughing. Sun Suanhua was asking for trouble. He touched his nose and said to himself, "No matter how bad I am still in the foundation building stage. What's wrong with the pile of pills? I eat the pills I made myself. Even the foundation building pills were made by myself." Wang San heard it clearly, and his heart was burning. Foundation building pills. He has been practicing qi for many years, but in Yunzhou, foundation building pills are in short supply. Wang San made up his mind and decided to follow Sun Suanhua and find a chance to find out if he has foundation building pills. If he can reach the foundation building stage before returning to Yazhu. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 76. It's night. Zuyun returned to the sect, and Mo Xingpen was napping at the gate of the mountain. Hearing the sound of footsteps, he suddenly opened his eyes. Just when he was about to curse a few words, he realized that it was Zuyun who was coming. "Brother, are you back?" He quickly stood up and greeted him. "Well, have you heard any news today?" Zuyun glanced at him lightly and asked. Yes. Mo Xingpen nodded repeatedly and said, "Senior brother Qin seems to have been wronged." "What's going on?" Hearing a different reversal this time, Zuyun frowned and asked. "It's like this. I found out that senior brother Qin took in a 6-year-old female disciple, and the spiritual root test was wrong. It was clearly a water spiritual root, but I didn't know what kind of spiritual root it was. So I defrauded the sect master's introduction reward. Later, the sect master found out that it was just a water spirit root, so he killed senior brother Qin in a rage. But he was afraid that the other brothers would talk about it and said that he had stolen the spirit stones. Of course, the sect master also took back those spirit stones." Zuyun's heart trembled. Qin Liken had told him personally that the female disciple was a mutated ice spirit root. How did it come to Mo Xingpen's place and turn into a water spirit root? There must be something evil in this. "Brother Zhu, this water spirit root is the most unsuitable for practicing sword arts. As long as there are other spiritual roots, it will be fine." No wonder the sect master is furious. Senior brother Qin is really a little eager for quick success. In our Yunzhou, water spirit roots with a single attribute are most useless. Zuyun said in a low tone, "Okay, I understand." After saying that, he casually took out a low-grade magic weapon and threw it over as a thank you. Then he suddenly remembered something and asked, "Do you know where I can buy an alchemy furnace?" Mo Xingpen was stunned for a moment, thought for a moment, and said, "There seems to be a larger market among the 300 in the south. I heard it from many senior brothers." Zuyun finally felt better and said, "Junior brother Mo, I'm not familiar with you, am I?" Mo Xingpen immediately knew what Zuyun meant, and quickly stuffed the magic sword into his storage bag, and said seriously, "Brother Zhu, I'm just here to guard the mountain gate, I don't know anything else." Zuyun smiled at Mo Peng, and when he turned to leave, his expression suddenly turned cold again. It seems that Lin Zhenyang has a big idea in his mind. He obviously has an ulterior motive in passing the mutated ice spirit roots into water spirit roots. However, it is unknown what the purpose is. But he actually killed people and silenced him for this, and I don't know if the big dog will be implicated. Tomorrow, I must go find Big Dog to find out something. If something goes wrong. Back in the valley, Zuyun first went to see Chen. He had taken 3 essence-nourishing pills, and his complexion was much better. When he heard Zuyun's footsteps, he woke up immediately. Seeing it was Zuyun, he said with surprise, "Zuyun, are you back?" Zuyun smiled and said, "Recovering well. Thanks to you, Zuyun, meeting you is the luckiest thing that has happened to me in this life." Chen Hua sat up with emotion on his face. Zuyun put away his smile and said, "This life is too short." Chen Hua was puzzled and said, "Zuyun, I am already 15 years old after all. If nothing else happens, my lifespan will be 100 years. Isn't it short?" Zuyun laughed, stepped forward and helped Chen Hua pull down the quilt, and said, "I said it was you who covered me with this quilt, it's too short." After talking to Chen Hua some more and asking him to recover and practice again, Zuyun went to the alchemy room. Taking the copper furnace directly into the day-glazed mirror, Zuyun refined the elixir for a full 12 hours before leaving. It had only been a few hours in the outside world, but the sky was already bright. Zuyun left some more essence-nourishing pills for Chen Hua, and then left the valley and walked towards the sect master's palace. The small courtyard where the sword was originally practiced now had a petite figure. Zuyun looked and saw that it was a 6-year-old girl, who must be Sun Qiniang, who had mutated the ice spirit root. The sword controlling techniques of the spirit sword sect are divided into chi controlling and sword controlling techniques. The two complement each other and advance at the same time, or they can be practiced separately. At that time, Mu Huhui saw Zuyun's 5 spiritual roots, so he casually gave the sword formula and sent it away. As a result, Zuyun did not know how to refine chi at all, and by chance, he found the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra. Daegu is practicing at the same time, so his mastery of sword techniques and his realm go hand in hand. But at this time, he was teaching Sun Qiniang to learn sword moves, and his teaching was methodical and meticulous. "Big Dog!" Zuyun shouted softly. "Xiaozu, why are you here?" Seeing that it was Zuyun, the big dog didn't know what he said to Sun Qiniang, and hurriedly ran towards Zuyun. Sun Qiniang maintained the same posture, but looked directly at Zuyun. But Zuyun's mind was all on the big dog at this time and he didn't pay attention. After the big dog approached, Zuyun pulled his sleeve and motioned to follow him. "Xiaozu, is there something you can't say directly?" The big dog was surprised and said, "Master asked me to teach my little junior sister to practice swordsmanship. When she can practice alone, she will lead me to break through the 6th heaven." Zuyun suddenly realized that it was no wonder that this cultivator was willing to give up his own cultivation time. "The matter is a bit urgent, please come with me first." The big dog shook his round head, pondered for a moment, and said, "Okay, then I'll let junior sister practice by herself for a while. You go over there and wait for me. I'll be there right away." He pointed to the corner next to his house, ran back to Sun Qiniang, and said, "Junior sister, senior brother will come back in a moment. You can do this posture more often." Sun Qiniang blinked and said, "Senior brother, is that also a senior brother?" The big dog smiled and said, "Well, he started with me. You should call him Senior Brother Zhu, we are from the same village." "Wow, Senior Brother, your village must be very powerful, right?" Sun Qiniang's eyes were shining. "It's just an ordinary village in the mountains. We came out of the barren rock mountain." "Okay, I won't say any more. Senior brother will come back and teach you how to use the sword technique while refining your chi. After the big dog finished speaking, he turned back and ran towards Zuyun. Sun Qiniang looked innocent, but in her heart she thought of the scene that day. The eldest brother and the second brother died on the way to Barren Stone Mountain. No wonder this enemy wants to go to Barren Stone Mountain. Does that mean he has relatives there? If you kill my brother, don't blame me for killing your relatives in revenge. Xiaozu, if you have something to say, please tell me immediately. The big dog urged. Zuyun frowned. Just now, he suddenly felt a vague murderous aura, but it disappeared soon. This made him a little puzzled. The big dog had a close relationship with him, and he almost grew up wearing a pair of crotchless pants. But besides him, the only one here is Sun Qiniang. How could a 6-year-old girl have murderous intentions when she had no grudge against him? Could it be that the sect leader noticed me? Just as he was thinking this, he was brought back from his thoughts by the big dog's words. Thinking that his murderous aura was gone now, Zuyun simply whispered, "Big dog, do you know what kind of spiritual root your junior sister has?" The big dog asked strangely, "Xiaozu, why are you asking this? What kind of spiritual root does my junior sister have? Is this an emergency? Just tell me, you know what the spiritual root is?" Zuyun said anxiously. The big dog looked at him deeply, and then said, "I can tell you, but you must not leak it, otherwise my master will blame you, but he won't help me break through the 6th level of chi refining. I don't know why. It's time to go to Wanjian Mountain to find Ergu." Zuyun understood once he heard what the big dog said. Before he could speak, he said first, "Is it a mutated single-line ice spirit root?" The big dog suddenly widened his eyes. How do you know?" "Why didn't I know?" Zuyun asked back. "Impossible, this is impossible. When I went to Elder Mu to register, I was also talking about water spirit roots. How did you know?" The big dog took a few steps back and forth. "Who leaked the news?" "Master is very protective of my junior sister. He told me that if the seniors from Wanjian Mountain came and found out that she was Binglingan, he might directly take it away. But the junior sister is only 6 years old, she is still a child." Zuyun said in a deep voice, "If you take away the ice spirit root, your master will also get a lot of resources." "What's the difference?" Big Dog said, "You don't understand, Xiaozu. Master said that junior sister is too young, and I'm afraid that the people in Wanjian Mountain will try to encourage others, which will harm junior sister." Zuyun analyzed it and felt that the matter was far from that simple. Apparently Big Dog was also deceived. However, from the current point of view, the big dog should not be in danger, so he simply relaxed and said, "It's okay, I am the only one who knows about this matter. You must not tell it. Next, practice hard. There will be no time more, break through to the 6th level of chi refining as soon as possible, and go to Wanjian Mountain to learn more advanced techniques as soon as possible." When the big dog heard this, he immediately breathed a sigh of relief and said, that's good, that's good. I wish you can rest assured, I will not give up practicing, I will still. He almost said that he wanted to take revenge on Ergu, but luckily he stopped in time. What else do you want? Zuyun heard something and asked further. It's nothing, I still need to learn advanced sword techniques. Well, it's fine as long as no one knows about it. Just go back and practice. The big dog started chasing people away. Zuyun turned around and left. He didn't want to tell Big Dog about Qin Liken's death, which would affect his mood. Sometimes it's better to hide it. At the same time, he was not in a hurry to avenge Qin Liken. The matter was not completely clear, but it was obvious that Lin Zhenyang took action to silence him. Only a dead person wouldn't reveal secrets. Of course, the more important thing is that my own strength is not enough. The strong are respected, I have to step up my practice. Zuyun returned to the valley, taking care of Chen Hua, while finding the right opportunity to enter the Dao-glazed mirror to practice. Either refining qi, drawing talismans, or refining elixirs and playing with formations. Until one day, a man stood in the air out of thin air, with a long sword flying back and forth beside him like a butterfly piercing flowers. He didn't say a word, but his power almost enveloped the entire spirit sword sect. In the inner gate building complex, several figures stepped on the flying sword and rose into the air. Then they knelt down on the sword and shouted in unison, "I have seen Senior Wanjianshan." The person coming is none other than the elder of Wanjian Mountain, Xianxia. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 77. Snort. With a cold snort, the surrounding temperature dropped sharply. More than 10 people in the foundation building stage, such as Lin Zhenyang and others, were trembling and did not dare to breathe. The spiritual energy in his body circulated carefully, only keeping the flying sword under his knees in the air. Afraid of arousing the dissatisfaction of the senior at the core formation stage, he would smash them to pieces with every move he made. The ground was full of chi-refining cultivators who were kneeling and shouting. Whether it is those who have returned or those who have left the sect. When had they ever felt such power? Xianxia's face was cold, he looked around, and finally his eyes fell in the direction of Mi Jiancliff. That ant at the 7th level of foundation building, come here. Xianxia finally spoke. Lin Zhenyang and Mu Huhui were about to stand up, but they looked at each other again and Mu Huhui knelt back. He is only the second elder. Let Lin Zhenyang, the sect leader, handle matters like this. I have met my senior. I am Lin Zhenyang, the leader of the Spirit Sword sect. A sudden change occurred there a few months ago. I waited until a group of my sect members passed by and found out that Elder Wan was dead. Lin Zhenyang didn't dare wait for Xianxia to ask questions and said directly. No matter how weak Wan Laojun is, he is still at the 8th level of foundation building. Why don't you help him when he encounters enemies? Xianxia's voice seemed calm, but it scared all the elders and others into nervousness. The reason for this is because all it takes is one thought for Ken's Hiba to want them to die. Back to senior, Lin Zhenyang said cautiously, Elder Wan has repeatedly ordered that no one is allowed to enter the bottom of the Misty Sword Cliff without his consent. Something happened at Misty Sword Cliff that day, and I wanted to go to investigate, but Elder Wan strictly prohibited me from entering. Stopped him. When there was no sound from the other side and Elder Wan didn't come back, the young man and the others found the courage to go over. Then they found that Elder Wan was dead. In this bag, let senior take it back. Lin Zhenyang trembled and took out a storage bag. This is Wan Laojun's original storage bag, but what's inside? It had long been divided by Lin Zhenyang and others, and now there was only Wan Laojun's body. Waste. Xianxia shouted loudly, and the flying sword beside him turned into a stream of light. A white light flashed, a hole was cut in the storage bag, and a grey-black coffin appeared out of thin air. The eyes of all the people in the foundation building stage shrank sharply. Is this the magical power of the seniors in the pill-forming stage? They can also destroy storage bags. But they couldn't imagine destroying the storage bag like this and still letting the contents fall out. That is an independent space. Once the storage bag is destroyed, the contents inside will disappear without a trace, and no one knows where they are. The sword light went away and came back again, stabbing the coffin instantly. The coffin exploded into pieces. The corpse turned into minced meat and blood, mixed with sawdust and scattered from the air. The stench spread, but it dispersed with the wind. Only during these foundation building stages did I realize that Xianxia just said rubbish, referring to Wan Laojun. When he came here, he had already been to the bottom of the Misty Sword Cliff. The stone pillar collapsed and broke into several pieces. and the dream in the middle of the stone pillars is endless and has no whereabouts. I thought that Wan Laojian, who was here, went too far and was attacked by the crowd of Lingjian sect, surrounded and killed. Now when I think about it with my toes, I can tell that I must be following the path of Menguia. That's why he was so angry and vented all his anger on Lin Zhenyang and others. But he also knew that it was useless to be angry at this time. The news must be sent back to Wanjian Mountain as soon as possible. Menguia, as the young palace master of Yaluo sect, has been suppressed here for 500 years. His lifespan is running out. The first thing he must do is to find the sacred objects of their sect. Otherwise, the ultimate plan will not survive for decades. He raised his eyebrows slightly and said indifferently, "This elder came here and brought you another stationed disciple. At this time, he is repairing the Misty Sword Cliff. Do what your spirit sword sect should do well, otherwise your spirit sword sect there is no need for Zone to continue to exist." Yes, yes. Lin Zhenyang felt relieved, knowing that Jian Shiba would not vent his anger on them, so he quickly said, "Senior, there are several people in this sect who meet Wan Jianshan's requirements. The villain's direct disciples are even more resolute and practice hard. The golden and wood spiritual roots. Now that the seniors are back, we will bring them out. Go and bring it here." Jian Shiba waved his hand gently, and these foundation building stages were driven off the sword. Just when they were so frightened that they couldn't control their bodies and were about to fall to the ground to death, they suddenly found a pure spiritual power protecting them and standing firmly on the ground. And the sword is 18. He also came down from the air, his whole body calmed down, and he looked like a mortal. "Mengbei, come here." Lin Zhenyang shouted at him, and the big dog kneeling behind him quickly ran over, its big head particularly conspicuous. Jian Shiba was stunned for a moment, then smiled, "That's right, you have reached the 6th level of Qi refining at the age of 13. Not bad, not bad. Lin Zhenyang, right? This is a reward for you." After saying that, he stretched out his hand and a porcelain bottle slowly flew towards Lin Zhenyang. "This is the Qi condensing pill. It is usually taken by monks like me and other monks in the pill formation stage, but it has the best effect when used in the foundation establishment stage." "Thank you, senior." Lin Zhenyang fell to his knees. The other elders also called their direct disciples. They have all passed the 6th level of Qi refining, but the youngest is only 17 or 18 years old. However, the requirement of Wanjian Mountain is that as long as they have 3 spiritual roots or above, and those who have reached the 6th level of the Qi refining stage before the age of 20, they can do it. The 18 swordsmen accepted all the orders, but the rewards for these disciples were much inferior to Lin Zhenjiang's. Mu Huihui was the only one with a gloomy expression. Because he has no disciples. Originally, he had 2 direct disciples of the 3 spiritual roots. One is Ergu and the other is Chen Hua. Unexpectedly, Ergu made him lose face, and Chen Hua secretly gave the spirit stone to Zuyun to pay off his debt. Although he was snatched away by himself in the end. But how can these 100 spirit stones compare to the pills that Jian Shishi gave him so casually? You must know that in the past, ordinary people in the foundation building period came to accept disciples, and the resources in exchange were ordinary, only better than those of their spirit sword sect. But compared with Jian Shiba's, there is a huge difference. This is the elixir formation period. At this time, Mu Huihui regretted it to death. He wanted to save face, but he suffered heavy losses in the end. "Are they all gone?" Jian Shiba asked casually and flicked his hand again. A golden light fell to the ground and suddenly turned into a small boat. However, the boat was slowly growing in size, and in a moment it became a flying boat. A man carrying magic weapon that can carry several people flying in the air and can be driven by spiritual stones. "Come up, little kids. It only takes 1 month, and I can take you all the way to Wanjian Mountain." Big Dog and the others were all dumbfounded. As soon as they passed the 6th level of chi refining, they immediately tried to fly with the sword. This was the obsession of almost all children. They all had an age when they envied the free flight of birds. When I got a little older, I yearned for immortals who could fly. After entering the sect, this desire became more intense. But after all, spiritual power is limited, and no matter how good you fly, it will only take you a cup of tea. But this flying boat can actually fly for a month, directly to Wanjian Mountain? What's so surprising? Seeing the expressions of these children and teenagers, Xianxia said, if you go to Wanjian Mountain to practice hard and reach the 6th level of foundation establishment, you can exchange your sect's contribution for the flying boat. Hurry up! Come up, everyone! Hearing that they also had a chance, Daegu and others got on the flying boat and sat down one after another, looking nervous and excited. Xianxia also stepped forward slowly, and when he was about to drive the flying boat to the sky, a flying sword flew rapidly from a distance. On top of the flying sword, a man dressed in black looked anxious and shouted loudly, "Senior, Senior! I am also at the 6th level of chi refining." Xianxia showed displeasure. A 6th level chi refiner dared to yell at him. Act recklessly. Just when he was about to slap him away with a palm from the air, who was dozens of steps away, he saw Elder Mu showing surprise and said anxiously, "Senior, this is Chen Hua, the villain's direct disciple. I didn't expect that he also has chi refining 6th level. It's heavy. The 3 spiritual roots of wood, earth, and fire are 15 years old." 15 years old, Xianxia immediately stopped his hand. At the age of 15, Sanligan could break through the 6th level of chi refining. If it wasn't for his amazing talent, he had amazing perseverance. What swordsmen value more is talent and perseverance in swordsmanship. The spiritual root can only make the sword art more powerful. The talent of swordsmanship is an ethereal thing that cannot be seen or touched. Perseverance can be reflected in all aspects. Just wait for him. As soon as he finished speaking, Chen Hua had already flown here, but when he came in a hurry, his spiritual power was exhausted and he fell down in mid-air. "Ouch, my good disciple, why are you so careless?" Mu Huhui exclaimed falsely. Yu Jian stepped forward and quickly supported him and brought him to the flying boat. Hearing this voice, Chen Hua threw his hand away and said coldly, "Mu Huhui, you have already expelled me from your school. I am not your good disciple." Chen Hua is not stupid. If Mu Huhui suddenly becomes so close to him, is it profitable? I won't let you succeed. Sure enough, Xianxia was stunned for a moment, then showed a playful smile and looked at Mu Huhui. "I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 78. Mu Huhui felt a chill all over his body. There was no murderous intent, but it made him feel like he was falling into an ice cellar. Instantly, he knew that the problem was with Chen Hua. "My good disciple, what are you talking about? Did your master misunderstand you before? It is said that a teacher is a father for life. I am your master for life." Mu Huhui smiled and gritted his teeth to say this. "Stop pretending," Chen Hua spitted, turned his head and knelt on the ground facing Xianxia, "This senior. I heard that if I have 3 spiritual roots, I can enter Wanjian Mountain before the age of 20. Please check my spiritual roots and realm." Xianxia raised his eyebrows and said slightly coldly, "There is a rule in Wanjian Mountain. Cultivate people first, then cultivate swords. Wanjian Mountain is a well-known and upright sect in the whole Yejing. Even if he is not your master, he is also an elder in this section. You are committing a crime." At this point, Mu Huhui was overjoyed. The elders of Wanjian Mountain actually blamed Chen Hua. Does that mean that they think Chen Hua is my disciple? Can my rewards be distributed as well? Chen Hua raised his head and said, "To answer the senior, I naturally know the truth of being a human being. My journey to immortality also started from Lingjian sect. I am only grateful to Lingjian sect. But this Mu Huhui privately took my spiritual stone and knocked me down to the bottom of Magian Cliff. If it weren't for my good luck, I would have died here long ago. But even so, I still know that I am a disciple of Lingjian sect. So after I was lucky enough to survive, I still stayed in Lingjian sect to recuperate and continue to practice. Finally, I broke through the 6th level of Qi refining today and was able to see the senior. Oh, a strange color flashed in Xianxia's eyes. He knew how high Magian Cliff was. Not dying from the fall was luck, but after being seriously injured in the foundation building period, he recuperated and practiced to the 6th level of Qi refining. That was great perseverance. Luck and perseverance coexist. No wonder this 3 spiritual roots can reach this level at the age of 15. Not bad. Little kid, you said so much, but what you learned is still the swordsmanship taught by your master. What you said is still inappropriate. Xianxia admired Chen Hua very much at this time. Except for the 3 spiritual roots, he liked the rest. Reply to senior, Chen Hua's eyes flashed with confidence, and said, the kid has been stuck in the 4th level of Qi refining for more than a few months because the wood spirit swordsmanship taught by the master has not made any progress. So I went down the mountain and found a sword formula in the outside market to practice again. So senior, my cultivation has nothing to do with Mu Huhui. These words were sonorous and powerful. Xianxia laughed at the sky. Ha ha ha, not bad, not bad. Little boy, your name is Chen Hua, right? My name is Chen Hua. Very good, Chen Hua. Xianxia, haven't met such a nice little boy for a long time. I am willing to accept you as my disciple. Are you willing? I couldn't ask for more. Chen Hua was ecstatic. He originally wanted to discuss Mu Huhui, and it would be best if he didn't get the resource reward, so he said these words with great momentum. Unexpectedly, it caught Xianxia's eyes. Chen Hua banged his head 3 times on the ground, and his forehead was full of blood stains. Then he raised his head and said loudly, Disciple Chen Hua, meet the master. Chen Hua, the master is the 18th elder of Wanjian Mountain. You will know the master's name after you arrive at Wanjian Mountain. You have to get on the flying boat first. The master has some private matters to deal with. Chen Hua faced the envious eyes of his fellow disciples and stepped onto the flying boat with his head held high. And in his heart, he was endlessly grateful to Zuyun. If he hadn't saved himself, constantly motivated himself, and provided him with elixirs and spirit stones, how could he have broken through 2 levels in such a short time? Talent. He never thought that his talent was so good. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been stuck in the 4th level of Qi refining after practicing the wood spirit sword technique for 4 years. At this time, Mu Huhui also secretly thought that it was not good, but he dared not say anything. Including Lin Zhenyang, the other foundation building period also gloated over the misfortune. They were originally competing with each other. Every time there was a good seedling, the strong ones would always get the first chance. Now they all have elixirs, and Mu Huhui obviously doesn't have them. Isn't this a rise and fall? However, this senior said that there was something else private. Just as they were puzzled, they saw Xianxia suddenly slapped out with his palm. With a bang, Mu Huhui flew backwards. Then, Xianxia's voice sounded coldly. And this palm is for my disciple's revenge. You are in the foundation building stage bullying the little kid in the Qi refining stage, so I am in the alchemy stage bullying you in the foundation building stage. Isn't it too much? Mu Huhui felt that his whole body was about to burst, and the spiritual power in his body was surging, and he was not under his control at all. But at this time, he had no choice but to kneel down and beg for mercy. Senior, I know I was wrong. Humph, Xianxia said coldly, if it weren't for your Lingjian sect contributing more than 10 good kids today, you would have died. After speaking, he swept his eyes over Lin Zhenyang and others, and said, remember, in the future, kids with 3 spiritual roots must be trained with all their strength. Sword cultivators, sword talent, and great perseverance are indispensable. Yes, we remember. The foundation building stage people knelt down on the ground in unison. Mu Huihui shouted a beat late, and then felt Xianxia's gaze as if it were real. Why, you didn't remember. After speaking, murderous intent was everywhere. Mu Huihui's heart was broken, and he quickly shouted, Senior, spare my life. I just remembered, there is a disciple with a single spiritual root in the sect. Hearing this, Lin Zhenyang was shocked. At the same time, the other elders also showed strange expressions. It seems that Mu Huihui wants to drag Lin Zhenyang into the water. If it's just right, if you dogs bite, then we'll be watching the dog fight from a distance. Both sides suffer losses, and we lose 2 strong competitors. Xianxia shouted in a low voice, why didn't you tell me earlier that you had a single spiritual root? Why didn't you bring it out for me to see? Lin Zhenyang hurriedly said loudly, Senior, I didn't mean to hide it, but I just took in this female disciple. Firstly, she is only 6 years old, and secondly, she has the water spirit root. Water spirit root. Xianxia's expression was stagnant, and then he said impatiently, wait until she reaches the 6th level of qi refining. We at Wanjian Mountain don't have water spirit roots suitable for practicing sword arts, and we are only 6 years old. This month's journey, if we are on a flying boat, it's so noisy. Lin Zhenyang breathed a sigh of relief, and then continued with a grim look on his face, Senior, this Muju has uneasy and good intentions. When the villain asked his disciples to register and make a register, he was responsible for it. He made it clear that he was a water spirit root. Hearing Lin Zhenjiang's attack, the rest of the foundation period burst into laughter, and Lin Zhenyang began to bite back. Unexpectedly, Xianxia stepped onto the flying boat and soared into the sky. A long while. The voice came from far away. This elder has no time to care about the intrigues within your sect. Train your disciples well, otherwise there will be no need for the spirit sword sect to exist. I don't know what magical power Xianxia used, but the sound kept echoing in the Lingjian sect and did not dissipate for a long time. It wasn't until the flying boat turned into a black spot and was far away from here that the rest of the foundation stagers got up. Lin Zhenyang snorted coldly, Mu Huihui, do you want to spoil my good deeds? You are still too young. After that, he left triumphantly. He got the qi condensing pill and just wanted to practice hard. If the realm reaches another level, won't it be easy to deal with Mu Huihui? Don't get too proud too soon. Mu Huihui said coldly. Although he didn't have any elixirs, he didn't use many of the 100 spirit stones on his body. The other elders were smiling, wishing they could fight. It's just that everyone knows very well that whoever jumps out at this time will do no good, no matter whether he is standing by the tree or Lin Zhenyang. Instead, he became cannon fodder between the two of them. Ha, Lin Zhenyang said disdainfully, why am I not proud? The disciple we accepted at the same time, Meng Baishi, has already given me the qi condensation pill in exchange. Where is your Zhou Huanghua? Where is Chen Hua? You are indeed flashy, otherwise, both of them have beautiful names, so why didn't they give you any pills in exchange? With that said, Lin Zhenyang turned around and left, deliberately humming a ditty. I'm smiling proudly, I'm smiling proudly. The other elders also dispersed. In addition to rushing back to try the new reward elixir, they also saw Mu Huihui shaking with anger and his aura was cold. At this time, he looks like a mad dog. If you get bitten, it's not worth it. Everyone dispersed, leaving Mu Huihui alone. Those ordinary disciples also felt that the atmosphere was not right and left early. A little further away, a head poked out, seeming to mutter to himself. Lin Zhenyang hid it from everyone and said it was the water spirit root. He even dared to hide Wan Jianshan's pill formation stage. I'm afraid there is something big going on. Ah. Forget it, let's forget about it for now. Let's talk about it then. The Lingjian sect is nothing more than that. The more they fight, the less time they have to pay attention to me. He drew back and returned to the valley. Next, start the formal cultivation realm, at least reaching the 6th level of qi refining. Go to Fangxi in the south to see if you can buy an alchemy furnace. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 79. On the flying boat. The big dog's eyes looked at Chen Hua from time to time. In the sect competition at that time, Big Dog was defeated by Chen Hua. It's not that he lacks strength, but that he was affected by Ergo's injury, so his performance was abnormal. Therefore, Daegu practices hard behind closed doors. When he is not practicing, he is on the way to practice. At this time, the two of them actually went to Wanjian Mountain together. What's even more amazing is that Chen Hua was actually accepted as a direct disciple by his senior at the Danja stage. He couldn't help but be curious. Of course, what is more curious is that just now Chen Hua angrily attacked Mu Huhui. Not only did Mu Huhui not get the resource reward for training, but he was also slapped away by senior Xianxia. He felt a sense of relief in his heart for no reason. Compared with the other classmates who have never met, Daegu is more willing to communicate with Chen Hua. Maybe he will need a lot of help when he gets to Wanjian Mountain. In fact, Chen Hua was also willing to make friends with Daegu because of Zhu Yun's relationship. But right now, he didn't dare to say too many words. Although Xianxia accepted him as his disciple, the way he dealt with Mu Huhui made him realize that his master was also a ruthless character. It's better to say less before you understand his temper. The flying boat is very fast, not much slower than the flying sword. One day passed. Xianxia, who was standing at the bow of the airship, suddenly let out a light sigh. At the same time, the flying boat also slowed down. Interesting, a monk in the qi refining stage actually follows a monk in the foundation establishment stage. A hint of amusement flashed across the corner of Xianxia's mouth. A group of young people lay on the edge of the boat and looked towards the ground. Sure enough, a carriage was driving through the wild forest. There was a monk lurking behind, moving around and using the cover of trees on both sides of the dirt path to follow from a distance. They were condescending and saw the monk's movements clearly. Of course, their strength is low and they cannot see the realm like Xianxia. Chen Hua. At this time, Xianxia suddenly spoke. The disciple is here. Chen Hua was shocked and didn't know why Xianxia suddenly called him. Look, if it were you, how would you handle this? This. Chen Hua knew that Xianxia was testing him, which might directly affect his treatment after arriving at Wanjian Mountain, and his thoughts were spinning rapidly. But with his knowledge, he naturally had no means of dealing with it, so he couldn't help but insert himself into Zhu Yun's way of doing things. After a while, he had a solution. Master, if I were the sword cultivator behind, I would definitely not follow too far. Instead, I would look for an opportunity to distract the driver of the car, and then take the opportunity to make a sneak attack. Tell me, how to disperse? Xianxia raised his eyebrows and continued to ask. You can use talismans or the sound of flying swords to strike east and west. And the ultimate move is to hit the vital point at the moment when he is distracted. Hearing this, Xianxia nodded slightly. This kid looked like he was only 15 years old, but he could use his brain, so that was pretty good. Although the disciples from Yas who have better cultivation talents, a swordsman who doesn't use his brain will have limited growth. However, Xianxia asked again, my master has already said that the first one is the foundation building stage. How dare you do it when you are in the qi refining stage? Hearing this, Chen Hua suddenly smiled confidently and said, Master, since that person dares to follow the carriage, it means that he must have some skills and is looking for opportunities. And the foundation building stage is obviously a big level higher, but he has not been found. People were following him, or he found out but didn't take it seriously. Either his foundation building period was fake, or he underestimated the enemy too much. Having said this, Chen Hua paused and said, the strong will die in the hands of the weak. 9 times out of 10, they underestimate the enemy. In his heart, he couldn't help but think of the experience of traveling with Zhu Yun. That time, didn't they face a powerful enemy and end up in danger? All of this is because Zhu Yun made good use of his opponent's underestimation and defeated them one by one. During the few days he stayed in the valley with Zhu Yun, he couldn't help but think of those things while practicing. Why is it that even though Zhu Yun is on the same level as him, he is a burden? Later, he figured it out, his mind became clear, and he broke through the small realms one after another. Only then could he catch up with the flying boat of Xianxia. Ha ha ha, that's right. My teacher really did not misjudge you. The analysis is well founded. Yes, that's right. Xianxia was very satisfied and said, Yunzhou is in the foundation building stage at most, but when we get to Yazhu, we may encounter the core forming stage in the future. Chen Hua, and a bunch of little kids, please remember. In the absolute strength in front of me, everything is false. Yes. All the teenagers understood that this was the experience guidance given to them by Xianxia, and they all said in unison. The big dog gave Chen Hua a high look. Xianxia ignored what was below and continued to speed along in the flying boat, quickly disappearing into the clouds. If he spreads his spiritual consciousness, he might find Mengwei in the carriage. But he was sure that Mengwei's life was short, and his recovery of strength was extremely slow. Even if he returns to Yaluo sect, calculating the time, it is estimated that it will take at least half a year. He had enough time to do so. I finally left. I didn't expect that I would actually encounter Wang Jianshan's pill formation stage. In the carriage, I could feel the terrifying aura disappearing, and Mengwei's pale face finally regained a trace of color. He put away the Xiaoyuan Dan clasped in his hand and let out a long sigh of relief. If she is found here, she will die 9 times, and Sun Suanhua will die 10 times. Although swallowing one of these longevity pills can increase your lifespan by 100 years, you cannot take them casually. If you take 2 pills in a row within a period of time, the medicinal properties may surge and reduce your lifespan. At least a few decades must be allowed for the medicinal properties to be fully absorbed into the body. And the same pill, the more you take, the weaker the effect will be. The same is true for the Heki pill and Huanglong pill. It's just that the effect of the primary pill itself is average, and the effect of the reduction is not obvious. Of course, it will still be the same after taking too much. Let's talk about the longevity pill. The second longevity pill taken after an interval may only increase your lifespan by 90 years. The third pill will be 70 years. And so on. However, if you really encounter a life and death struggle, Mengwei can only take the longevity pill and fight. At this time, Xianxia's departure is not necessary, so she put the longevity pill into the storage bag hidden close to her body. Hey, girl, what's wrong with you? Sun Suanhua didn't know that he had just been used as a typical negative example by the people in the sky. He just noticed that the breathing in the carriage was disordered, so he turned around and pulled open the curtain and asked, Grandpa, I'm fine, I just had a stomachache. Mengwei pretended to be relaxed. In fact, there was no need to pretend. Anyway, at the stage of Jindan, if you encounter a problem, you either come down directly to solve it, or you will never come back after leaving. Stomachache, Sun Suanhua was stunned and said, "Did the Bigu pill expire?" When he came out, Sun Suanhua brought enough Bigu pills just to give Mengwea. "Grandpa, it will be fine in a while, it's okay." Mengwea said hurriedly. "What's wrong? Look at your face, it's pale with pain." "Wait a minute." Sun Suanhua didn't dare to let Mengwea have an accident, otherwise if he had the chance to meet Zuyun in Yeazhu in the future, Zuyun called him master, he really didn't dare to agree. He stopped the carriage, and after a while of tossing, he took a kettle and handed it into the carriage. "Girl, drink more hot water." Mengwea was speechless for a while. Sun Suanhua didn't care. He sat on the shaft and continued to drive forward. While swinging the whip, he told Mengwea a story. "I remember when I was still a mortal warrior, many junior sisters in the gang had stomachaches, so I boiled a pot of hot water and sent it to their boudoirs. I tell you, the effect is really good. Those junior sisters immediately stopped feeling pain, and they shouted at me to get out with full energy." Mengwea was interested. He didn't expect that Sun Suanhua was a martial artist before. Yeazhu has rich spiritual energy, and martial artist gangs are rare. He immediately became interested and asked, "Grandpa, you are kind enough to send water, why did they still ask you to get out?" Sun Suanhua said confidently, "Isn't it because I entered their boudoirs without knocking? I was holding hot water with both hands, and I was a warrior, so I couldn't free my hands." Mengwea seemed to understand. She was not young, but her mind was no different from that of an ignorant girl, and she didn't understand these. Listening to Sun Suanhua's story, Mengwea drank a sip of hot water from the kettle, and he felt better. In the distance, Wang San was startled by the sudden stop of the carriage, thinking he was discovered. Seeing that no one was chasing him, the carriage left again, and he breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that it was not a good idea to follow him. However, he did not dare to do anything before finding out the details of the other party. "Forget it, it's on the way anyway, just follow it." Wang San was hanging far behind the carriage again, not in a hurry. Yeazhu is a long way, and there will always be an opportunity. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 80. After these disciples left, Ling Jiansek suddenly returned to calm. The elders didn't come out, and they all practiced peacefully. The remaining disciples may have been a little stimulated and rarely went out to do tasks, but stayed in the sect to practice. In this way, there are fewer people to receive things, and Zuyun does not need to take on the tasks of refining alchemy and drawing talismans. He went about his work step by step every day, staying in the mirror for 12 hours and then coming out to take a look. If nothing happens, go back and continue practicing. What goes around comes around. A year has passed like this. The sect gradually became lively again. The task came naturally, but after 1 year outside the mirror, Zuyun had been busy for almost 5 years. He never let up. As long as there is a task, he will take it and put it away for a few days, and hand it in with his own inventory within the deadline. Basically, it won't delay his cultivation. The realm has reached the 6th level of Qi refining. To be honest, this speed is not fast. But Zuyun was already very satisfied. It's another year, it's time to visit senior brother Tianyuan. In the space in the mirror, Zuyun murmured to the medicine garden. After a while, he squatted down and dug up the soil. Almost half a year ago, he took the time to brew some spiritual wine. It wasn't much, and he didn't drink it. I just feel that it is Sun Suanhua's ability after all, and he cannot let it fall behind. In order to make these wines have some age, he specially buried them in the medicine garden. Taking out a cup, he chuckled and said to himself, "Senior brother Tianyuan, This wine is buried together with the spirit medicine. I don't know if it tastes good or not, but it's a fresh drink. Putting the wine into the storage bag, Zuyun was ready to set off for the back mountain of the sect master's palace. Along the way, there were some unfamiliar faces in the sect. Zuyun didn't bother to say hello to them, as he had no interaction with them in the first place. The rest of the people also looked at Zuyun curiously, and some of them took the initiative and called out to their senior brother, but Zuyun just nodded. After walking about a stick of incense, Zuyun had already arrived at Zhang Tianyuan's grave. Although it is 1 year in the future, for Zuyun, it is almost 5 years. Compared to the last memorial ceremony, Zuyun felt much more relaxed this time. As his realm has improved, his nature has naturally become much more open-minded. Senior brother Tianyuan, I brought you good wine this time. Zuyun took out the cup of spirit wine from his storage bag and sat cross-legged casually in front of the bag. The feet are still the same as before. There is just a small area, but it is a little different. The weeds are growing better, and there is even a slight flow of spiritual power. Zuyun didn't take it seriously. He remembered that the wine Lingju gave to Zhang Tianyuan was poured in this position. Maybe it's the spiritual power in the wine. Zuyun opened the wine seal and spoke alone, Senior brother Zhang, you didn't expect that I can also reach the 6th level of qi refining. At that time, the 3 of us came over, and the big dog went to Wanjian Mountain as he wished, and the second dog also had another chance. Who would have thought that I killed the most people? You're right, I'm a humming genius. However, geniuses are worthless these days. Look, you don't even dare to go to Yaezhu and try your luck now. Shaking his head, Zuyun poured some more wine into the green patch of green, and then took a sip himself. He rambled. Pour some wine and take a sip. Pour a little and take a sip. Sometimes laughter, sometimes silence. Until the cup of wine is gone. Zuyun stood up and said, Senior brother Zhang, I have already made a plan. Either I will break through the foundation building stage, or when I turn 20, I will go to Yaezhu to find Ergu. Now, I'm 12, Zuyun said something was wrong. If calculated based on the time outside the mirror, he is indeed 12 years old. In the past year, he has spent almost all of it in the mirror. Counting 5 years, he should be 16 years old. But at this time, his figure has not changed much. It stands to reason that the age of 10 to 16 is one of the fastest growing stages for children. Not only will your face change, but your body will also become taller and stronger. Zuyun touched his face and then his forearm, feeling doubtful. Could it be that the time that passes in the mirror is different? He scratched his head, puzzled. The more Diwu glazed mirror is used, the more problems he will encounter. But until now, he hasn't figured it out at all. But the Diwu glazed mirror was connected to his mind, and the entire fragment was embedded in his left chest like a heart mirror. Zuyun knew that this was his natal magic weapon. But not much is known. By the way, that green jade slip. While Zuyun was thinking, he suddenly remembered the green jade slip. When he was first bound to the Daewoo glazed mirror, he learned from the jade slip that the fragments had become his own magic weapon. After reaching the qi refining stage, I learned that the time flow rate difference is 5 to 1. So in the foundation building period, in addition to the ratio becoming 6 to 1, can we get more information from the jade slips? Zuyun's eyes lit up, and the smell of alcohol dissipated in an instant. If you want to know more, you will get stronger. I have to practice anyway, so why do I want so much? Zuyun had a smile on his face and planned to go to Nanfangfang City first. I have refined a lot of elixirs, but I have not refined the body-shaping elixir that I got from Fu Taran. First, the body-shaping pill is an intermediate level pill, and the copper furnace of the sect is not high enough. Second, he does not have the materials to refine the body-reversing pill. Intermediate level pills do not only require the main medicine. Many auxiliary materials are also needed. The body shaping pill can be used to refine the body, and before the nascent soul stage, it can effectively improve one's body. This is what Zuyun planned. Even if he has not reached the 6th level of qi refining, he must go. Because in another year, he believes that Mu Huihui will definitely make trouble for him again. At that time, Mu Huihui did not get anything, and his realm was probably not as good as Lin Zhenyang and other elders. The reason why he did not come to Zuyun this year was that he needed to heal his wounds, and secondly, he took advantage of the spiritual stones in his hand to practice quickly. But when the resources are insufficient next time, he may come to Zuyun for trouble. Zuyun judged this situation through the recent increase in pill tasks. Only by completely solving the troubles of Elder Mu can he practice in Lingjian sect with peace of mind until he is 20 years old, or to the foundation building stage. This time, Zuyun did not smash the wine cup, but put it back into his storage bag. Brother Zhang, I will come to see you again at this time next year. After saying that, he turned around and left without a trace of dragging his feet. The person is dead, and the tea is cold, but what should be let go will be let go slowly. Zuyun plans to see if there are any other tasks in Yundan Pavilion and Futang, so that he can keep the secret that Sun Suanhua is not in the valley. These days, he has been saying that Sun Suanhua assigned him to come here, and those people didn't think there was anything wrong. But it's better to be careful. Zuyun has never relaxed his expression. Only a few steps. Suddenly, a cold murderous aura came from a distance. Zuyun felt a chill in his heart, and his body retreated rapidly, and even retreated to the slope. There was only a bang, and the gravel flew, and some small stones flew and turned into white ice chips. The temperature dropped sharply around, and the green leaves in front of Zhang Tianyuan's tomb were covered with frost. Ice spiritual power, Sun Qiniang. Zuyun immediately knew who was attacking him, but he didn't know why. This single spiritual root that was hidden by Lin Zhenyang from the entire sect suddenly used a killing move on him. What was the reason? While he was still confused, the murderous intent piled up, and Zuyun retreated step by step. It's not that his skills are inferior to others, but this place is not far from the sect master's hall. If Lin Zhenyang is nearby, he will probably lure him out immediately. Thinking back to the time, Lin Zhenyang killed Qin Lycan to keep him silent, and he might attack him. He must keep his trump card. Sun Qiniang was full of murderous intent, and her moves went straight to the vital points. Zuyun was very fortunate at this time. Not only did he learn the body movement of Chang Shengju, but he also had the sudden idea to use spiritual power in it. When he was in the mirror, the space was narrow and it was not easy to practice, but he would also run a circle in the valley every day. As he retreated, he shouted coldly, "Junior sister Sun, I have no grudges against you, why do you want to attack me?" Sun Qiniang's face was as cold as ice, her eyes were dull, and she stared at Zuyun's movement. She just realized that she couldn't do anything to Zuyun, so how could she have time to speak? At this moment, what Zuyun was worried about happened. In the master's hall, a sword light flew quickly, and the might of the foundation building period was locked on Zuyun. "Waste boy, have you offended my disciple?" After saying that, the terrifying pressure made Zuyun's knees soften, and he almost knelt down.